excited. Hello. This is episode number 30 with Truth Be Told podcast. I'm your host, Britt, and today we have a good one for you guys. I have the lovely Miss Beautiful Chelsea Mancini. How are you doing today, beautiful?
I mean, I'm so good, but your energy just like makes me so much better. So I cannot complain at all.
I think I get it from you because your energy is the same. We bring it.
I know. I'm like, we're gonna vibe off each other well.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to see you today. It's been a while. How are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. I'm good. I'm That's like, good. I don't know. Honestly, I'm like the best I've ever been. I'm pretty good these days.
That's awesome. See, look at life.
Look at life.
That's definitely a positive. I love to hear that, especially since I haven't seen you in a while, just face to face. It's on camera and talking to each other. So,
yeah, I know. Totally. I know.
Yeah. But today we actually are going to talk about Chelsea. Before we get into the book, I am going to talk about you a little bit. But we are talking about, this is episode number 30. It's called High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. Yay!
Fine.
And I thought of you because I feel like when it comes to those different 6 habits, I feel like you demonstrate them well. I feel like you're doing it. Even when you don't feel like you're doing it, I feel like you are doing it, especially on the camera and even when we're in a like-minded space area. So I wanted to commend you for that.
Well, thank you. I was so excited when you said this is what we were going to talk about because I did really, really love this book. So
any book we got into, you dove right into it, and you were always blunt. I don't like this, or okay, like it was always on your face. So I would laugh sometimes. I would be off camera, but I would be laughing in the inside.
Oh, that's so funny. When I was younger, my dad used to call me the face because like I'm very facially expressive. I'm like no poker face whatsoever. So
no, but that's a good thing because then people like they can't feed you the bull. Like they already know this is what you're gonna get. No shade.
Right, for sure. I don't know. I like to say I like. I've never really been described as blunt, but I do like to say what I am thinking, I guess. I don't know.
That's blunt.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is, but I try not to be like harsh, like I feel like I'm not harsh. Like I like to deliver the truth, but in a way that's not like some people are blunt and they're like mean. Like I don't like to be mean.
That's definitely understandable. I think for me, like I've grown into not being harsh because Chelsea, I have been mean. I've been mean, but now it's hard for me to be mean. And like now I'm like, okay, this is who I am. I'm still me though. But don't take it for granted. But you just want to lead you want to treat people the way you want to be treated, even though everybody doesn't deserve it. I mean,
well, that's the thing is like, I feel like it just comes along with self-awareness, right? Like you say, not everyone deserves it, but also like they do, like people know not what they do. Right. And so like, when you're the one who's like self-aware and you can see like, they don't know that they're tripping. So like, I'm just going to offer them kindness and like say what I feel so that I'm not compromising myself, but like, I don't have to do it in a way that's like defensive. Like, I feel like as you gain self-awareness and confidence, you feel less of a need to be harsh because you're like, you're good with you. Mm-hmm. So like, you don't feel a need to like attack and like prove it. You're just like, I'm just going to say this thing because it's true. And I'm going to offer kindness and like, they can take whatever they need.
And see, that's why I love you. See how you just broke that down? And see, everybody doesn't get that. Like, it's all about where you are on your self journey.
Right.
And knowing that we are self-aware is sometimes easier to pull back depending. Sorry.
That's okay.
If you're not in one of those spaces where you can actually grow and continue to be that person, then it's hard because okay, let me say this, Chelsea. Like, there are certain people that don't know, but what about the people that do know? I know we're going off subject a little bit, but I have to ask you that. What about because I'm just thinking about a personal subject for me. Like, this one person, I feel like she knows she's like that. But do you still extend the grace? Because my sister was like, yes, you do. You still be yourself. Don't let that person reflect off of you.
Like, how do you mean? Like, she knows she's like what? Like, she knows
like, if she's asking for something, I say begging. She knows she does that. Like, this is not something that you don't do.
Right. So, I mean, and here's what I have to say about that. And this came up in book club all the time. Like, are people really doing their best? Like, some people will just justify their bad traits and their bad habits. Like, that's just who I am. That's just how I am, or whatever. And that just comes down to it's still like a lack of like emotional awareness and like the ability to have the audacity to believe that you can be different and that things can change, that just because something has always been one way, that doesn't mean it has to continue to be that way. Right. And I think like to accept that is a big thing and not easy for a lot of people. It's just easier to stay in this place of, well, this is just who I am. So like you can deal with it, and I think there's like this fine line between like, I want to be who I am and I want to be authentic, right? And I'm not going to sacrifice myself and like compromise who I am. And also like when we overly attach to identities and like refuse to change and grow, like that's where the problem is, right?
Right.
But I mean, so I think it's just so easy for humans in general to stay comfortable, even if they know that this behavior is a problem, right? It's just easier to continue to do it because the devil you know is better than the one you don't, right? Or whatever.
It's funny you're talking about that because that's like my next topic. So I'm just getting chills because I'm like, Chelsea's already on it. I mean,
be out here knowing things.
Yeah, she is definitely a tarot reader. She's more than that. She's a advisor. She's a coach. She's a personal development friend. She's an entrepreneur. I know Chelsea has a lot of hats and she has a book coming out. So Chelsea, let us know. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. I know you're like on book number 3.
No, this is my first like real book. Last year I released like my ebook on the tarot and like breaking down the tarot cards. And like, that was really fun. But this is, and that was just like a downloadable PDF. This is a book that's going to be like a real tangible book. And I'm shooketh. I can't even believe it.
Tell us more about it and tell us what you have going on.
Yeah. So this book, I keep calling it a graveyard. Over the last 18 months, my life has changed dramatically. I turned 30 at the height of the like pandemic at the beginning of 2021. Ended a 5.5-year relationship and like had to deal with, when the pandemic hit, taking my in-person business and shifting it to now a virtual one. Right. So that was a big change. And then it was, okay, well, where are we going now? And so over the last year, I've made so many changes and pivots, and I've gone through so much fear and uncertainty, especially, leaving a 5.5-year relationship and living on my own for the first time and, having to navigate that. And one of the things I knew was going to be so important for me was to face my emotions, because it is so easy for me to not do that, to shove them down, to just like talk myself like, oh, it's okay, we're good. Like, I'm okay. Like, and to not address the things that I'm feeling.
Right.
So as I went through this pain, writing was how I processed and how I kind of saw what was going on in my mind and putting it on paper, and what was going on in my heart and putting it on paper. And it was just a way for me to process. And then the approach, the ethos I've always had, whether it's been when I've been personal training or nutrition coaching or mindset coaching or whatever, is if I'm having this specific experience, I'm probably not the only one to ever have had this experience.
Right.
And I think it's just so, like, my favorite things to like read are things that make me feel like, yes, I can relate to that. Like, I feel seen by this thing. And so I just at some point, I don't know, maybe like last fall, I realized that the writing I was doing, I wanted to kind of collect into, like, it had many iterations, many visions. It really came into shape in February. I just had this like total breakthrough and I was like, oh my God, this is a book. So like I said, it's a graveyard. It's some stories of pain, the loss of love and friendship, facing uncertainty and fear, like the sheer overwhelming reality that being a human is, and like what it demands of us when we're trying to like live in an authentic way, and like the just how scary and
very scary.
And so it's a collection of stories, a collection of poems and prose and etc. That kind of walks through from pain into kind of uncertainty and transition into like surrender and acceptance. So
I love it. I'm excited. I'm
thank
definitely
you.
gonna pay attention. I'm gonna pay attention because I'm gonna get it. So definitely. When does it release? When is your release date?
It releases on July 14th. I'm
Oh,
gonna have
around the
I
corner!
know, it's I literally ordered, so it's like it's done. I ordered the first like proof hard copy today, and it's like on its way to my doorstep, and I can't even believe it. But so July 14th, I'm gonna have a party on Instagram and Facebook at 8 p.m. Eastern, where I'm gonna talk about the book and read some pieces from it, and then it'll open up for sale.
I'm excited. Congratulations, Chelsea.
Thank you.
God is going to open so much doors. He's already doing that for you. The universe, everything that you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
Keep going. Even when you think when we have those rough days, because all of us do.
Yeah, 100%. Today was a rough day.
Even to come out of a 5-year relationship, I'm known for being in long-term relationships. So I know how you feel. And I commend you for that, because when you know it's time, regardless of the situation, regardless of whatever happened, you take the step. That's a big step, because some people stay in it, just because
100%.
of history.
Right. I know. And that's my big message is like, we know, like how long did I know before I actually accepted that I knew, right?
Right.
But so often we ignore what we know, and I just wish that we would not.
It's okay. It's our nature. We're women.
I know. We're doing our best out here.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. As far as the book goes, what else do you have going on? Because it amazes me how you are reading in your spirituality world, how you advise people, and what made that come about? Because I'm very interested in that. I'm scared of it too.
Everyone's scared of it until I'm like, no, like just let me hold your hand, and then they're like, oh, okay, this isn't scary. So I've been a personal trainer for the past 8 years, and then I got into nutrition, and like I said, for me, like it's all about like, because I was so unhealthy, and then I had all these gut issues, so I wanted to get to the root of them, and I was like, other people are dealing with this, let me help you. And the more I got into the physical health,
right,
the more I realized, like, okay, like I can go exercise and like, get into better shape. Great. I can eat the right foods, and like that'll impact some things, right? But unless I also deal with my emotions and with what's going on in my mind, like there's still a gap. There's still something missing. Like there's something deeper. And so I just personally have always been interested in astrology and all of the woo-woo things. I mean, my mom was into it growing up, so I love to look at the stars, and we would name the constellations. And so it's just always been an interest of mine. And so as I was building my business on Instagram, I would share just those little pieces, like, myself reading tarot cards for myself. And I mean, you know how the universe works, right? Like that's the stuff people were taking interest in and asking questions about. And the more I leaned into it, the more I just knew, like, yeah, like this gets to the root. Because again, we can talk about what to exercise, we can talk about what to eat, but like, how are you doing mentally, spiritually, and emotionally? Because like that's what's then gonna impact your ability to go do the workout and eat the right things and etc. So I love diving into the deeper stuff with people. And I use the tarot. The tarot is just a tool for self-reflection. It's just a deck of cards, and, they relate to our emotions, our mindset, our tangible environment, the actions we're taking. And they make us ask questions of ourselves.
Right.
And I think that's why people are scared, because like I said, like we like to ignore what we know, right? And they're like, well, don't ask me that question. I don't want to give you the answer. So it's so fun. So I do offer one-on-one tarot readings are my favorite thing to do with people, because we dive in, and I usually start by saying what's on your mind, and like who knows what someone's gonna word vomit, and then we dive in, and my job, the way I see it, is I don't have any answers. I'm just here to ask the questions so that you then seek the answer from within yourself. And of course I have my experience, my personal experience, and I can relate that, and maybe we can kind of connect some things and see. But I just like to get people to ask questions of themselves, and see what comes up, because it's so fun to watch in a reading too. So like there's usually a turning point where things are like, okay, and then something is like, oh, I should probably, maybe I need to do this, or think about this, or work on this. And, it's all about self-reflection and diving in, like I said, to what we already know, or like being really honest about what we don't know, and learning how to get comfortable with that, which was a big life lesson for me. Like getting comfortable.
I think that's
I saw your face. You're like, ugh.
Yeah, that's the big thing for me. I'm always like, oh my gosh, what would she ask? And not just you, just in general, just I know like what you're doing is so real, it's so passionate, it speaks. Even when you are having your live sessions, and I do catch you sometimes at the end, I might catch you, but I'll come back and listen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you'll give me chills. I'll come off.
How does she know? How does she know?
Yeah. So I just want to tell you, keep going.
Thank you.
And as you say, like you're talking about, like you do this because you like to go into like deep. And I think this book is deep, as far as what type of high performance habits we should have.
Totally.
I don't know if you remember taking the assessment.
I do, and then I took it again today, because I was like, I wonder where I'm at.
I did too. Look, we thinking alike, because I was like, how am I gonna spend? Because I wanted to just go into where I was strong and where I was weak. And so the 6 that they talk about for the audience, Chelsea, of course we know, is clarity, energy, necessity, productivity, influence, and I believe the last one is courage. Yeah, courage. And so when I took the assessment again today, I'm still like sucking. It's on a 5 scale, and on clarity, like I'm like 2.3. That's my lowest one. But then in necessity, I'm beat. I know like it has to be done. Like we have to get there. I know that that famous quote that he would say all the time. Like it's in the book. It's from Jim Rohn. I think it says like motivation gets you there, but habits keep you going.
Right.
And that just kind of stuck with me. I was like, okay, I know it's a lot of stuff that I'm doing that needs to be cleared up. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting there. Like I got a badass morning routine. I stick with it. When I don't do it, I can feel it. Like if I don't meditate, if I don't journal, if I don't talk to God and get on there and have my one-on-one time with him, and then exercise, and then start work. Like, because my job is just, my 9 to 5 is just like, okay, I'm trying to eventually transition out of that. I'm not there yet, not trying to jump. I know that's not where I'm at. I have kids. Like, I'm not about to do that.
Yeah.
For me,
Sure, 100%.
And so I said, okay, some things have to change, So when I asked you about clarity, Chelsea, who is Chelsea? What does Chelsea value? Because that's what I think of when I think of clarity.
So, I mean, I think, well, you hit the nail on the head. Like for me, clarity is, in the tarot, I would relate it to the Ace of Swords, which is like this, like fresh, clean mental slate. And I think of clarity as, for me recently, what clarity means is acceptance, being willing to clearly see things the way they are. Because I think when we try, say where I'm at is point A, right? And I'm trying to get to point B. But if I'm like refusing to admit to myself where I really am at point A, that's going to make the journey to point B a little bit more difficult because I'm like looking at the wrong map, you know?
Right.
So for me, clarity is all about, it starts with acceptance of like, okay, what is true right now? What are my circumstances? Like, what am I taking stock of? And of course, when we talk about clarity, it's like, we need to know where point B is as well. Right. But I know for me, for a long time, I had no idea where point B was. I was like, I don't know. Like, I remember being in book club, and I was like, okay, I've got a lantern. All I know is that I'm going to take this next step.
Right.
And then after I take that step, I'll be able to see the next one and I'll take that. And so I think we need, when it comes to clarity, like, and I hate this because
I know,
but like patience is so important.
Right.
And being willing to, like you said, like you're like, I got necessity, like I'm doing the things, I'm in my routine, I know what allows me to feel good, what gets me connected on a daily basis. Right. And I think when we commit to those things, like the bigger picture eventually comes into view. And I feel like the lesson I've learned is I can't force it. Which that's like the message the universe keeps giving me, like, look at you trying to force shit. Sorry, right. I swear so much. I don't know. For me, clarity is about like I said earlier, like accepting where I am. Right. And like maybe I've got this vague idea of where I want to go. But the other big thing is accepting that like the details may look different than what I've imagined. Like I imagined this moment over a year ago. Yeah. This apartment that I wanted, like this, you know, the balcony, the pool, like I was imagining so much, but I was imagining it like with my ex, like in a different location, like differently.
Right. Oh, wow.
So it's good to do that, right? Like, I think doing that was what I needed to be doing in the moment. But in order to like, clarity is for me all about the feeling. Like, how do I want to feel when I end up wherever I'm going? Because then the details fill themselves in and the picture actually becomes clear. But you need to allow things to be a little fuzzy.
Yeah, I definitely see that. For me, I think, no, you definitely hit it on the nail, because I was looking on page 59 and I said to myself as I was reading the quote at the beginning from, I believe his name is Fedor, it says the feeling is clear and indisputable. Yeah. And you're saying that. It's just like as if you're suddenly sense the whole of nature and suddenly say, yes, this is true. Right. That scares me, Chelsea.
So can I challenge you?
Yes.
Like, what do you, okay, because here's, I think, what scares you?
That like I've always felt like I stayed in like a bubble, and I feel like I sometimes am in a fantasy, and sometimes it's really not a fantasy. Like, really, before I got married, just to give you just a quick story, I got married and I thought when I was young, I do this, I do that, I fall in love, white picket fence, that type. Got married, had babies, did it all backwards. I was like, it's nothing like I'm thinking, and still 35, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still this kind of fairy tale. So it scares me that sometimes as I grow, the people around me might not grow with me. They might grow apart from me. That's really big and scary for me. Like, I say that a lot because I am growing, and I'm okay with losing friends. But like, you know, I'm newlywed. I always say that. So I'm like, my husband might look at me like, what the hell she got going on? Because she ain't talking like she been talking. Now she done switched up. Or I have been, but now it's like more demanding, or this is what I am, or, you know, that type of thing when I say I'm scared.
So I think the thing about like having this big vision and wanting to grow is it like opens yourself up to vulnerability and disappointment. Like, you have to risk I'm dating right now, okay? And so like you have to risk rejection, like you have to like it's like when you admit what you really want,
right?
First of all, like then you're like firmly saying I don't want these things. And that's kind of scary because it's like, but those are the safety net. And yeah, like it opens yourself up to this disappointment. But it's just, so what I would say is, like you said, you're newlywed and you're worried that like if you're gonna think too big and your husband is gonna like not be on board,
right?
And so that's just an old fear that you need to figure out what's going on with that. Like, what is it from your past relationships or from growing up as a kid that taught you that like a woman with big dreams, like a man's not gonna want to hang around that, right? Like that's just the limiting belief. The shadow that needs to be like looked and like sometimes like in the beginning it can be enough to say I see this fear, I don't know where it is, I don't know what it is, but I see you, but I'm not going to let you drive the car.
Right makes sense. No, I love that. I love that. When you think about these 6 habits and you took the test, you said you took it again today, what was your like weak point and or not even just necessarily weak, where do you see you need work on and what do you think of that?
So now? It's so interesting. I couldn't find my old results. I was so mad at myself. I was like, where? But I remember, so my total score was 4.5 out of 5, which I was like, wow. Like it was 3 point something originally. My lowest score actually was clarity at 4, which I was like, what? I was so surprised. But I think that's because for me, I am so like open at this point. I'm like, I'm open to however it's going to fill in. So I feel like some of the questions are like, do you know with absolute certainty in 3 years where you want to be? And I'm like, no, like I'll be wherever the universe puts me, you know? So that's why I feel like it was my lowest score, because I'm just like willing to be lax.
Right.
And it's interesting. I mean, this doesn't really answer your question, but when I remember when I took it the first time, my lowest score was courage. It was like 2.1. Really? And now it's a 5. And I'm like,
what changed?
I like don't know when or how. I feel like I just got fed up with like, I no longer see the point in asking for or accepting anything that's not what I'm asking for, which wasn't the case for a long time. Like for me, for a long time, like I felt like, okay, like this is the thing I want. And so here's the thing that looks like it might be that. So I'm just going to like let myself live here, even though the thing was like, not it. I'm like, sure you are. Right. And I kind of like had this, I don't know if it was like a single moment. No, it wasn't. Over the course of the winter, my January and February, I was just engaging in some stupid behaviors. Like just stupid.
Okay, just having fun.
No, not even if I wasn't having fun. Is I was like trying to date a guy who was clearly not emotionally available. Like come on, like you're wasting your time here. Like it was so obvious to everyone around me, and they like gave me the space to figure it out. But I finally realized, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
What am I doing?
Right. And so that's just like one example, but like, it's just like, and like other examples have piled up where it just makes no, like, why would I, like, if I'm asking for this, why would I accept this? And why would I, because here's the thing. And I've been talking about this a lot recently because it's been coming up with clients and stuff. Like, why would I say this is what I want, right? I can like present myself in order to like reach a desired outcome, or I can present myself as I am and trust that will get me the thing that I'm really wanting. Like, I think in the past, what I would do is like, well, if I want to get this job, I need to make sure I say XYZ on the job interview.
Right.
But do I even want this job? Like, right? No. I mean, I don't want any freaking job. I don't want anyone telling me what to do.
Right.
But yeah, like I think so often we just try to get the thing because we think we're supposed to get the thing.
Right.
And so that ends up as us like, I think that takes away our courage. I think when we have the courage to be like, no, this actually isn't what I want. And so maybe that means I have empty space for a while. Maybe that means I have nothing, but that's better than settling for the thing that's not really what I want.
I love that.
And again, especially like, I mean, dating is just what I'm doing right now. So it's front of mind, right? Like, why am I going to like try to convince this guy that he should want to date me? Like, do I even want to date him if he doesn't like XYZ about me? Like, what the hell? So like, so why is there any point in like, I remember my friends being like, well, don't have that conversation because you might scare him away. I'm like, that's probably a good thing, right?
Right.
Like, exactly. Like if me saying XYZ scares someone away, like I'm the one who ends up better off, right? And sometimes it sucks.
Instead of putting all your energy into it.
Right. So like, I don't know. Like, so I just had this like moment where I was like, there's just no point in not being courageous and not asking for exactly what you want, because it only gets you what you don't want.
I think you coming out of your relationship was very courageous. Like,
so
for you to say like that was the big jump. Like it brought out a lot of empty space for you to know more about who is Chelsea, what does Chelsea want, things of that nature.
Yeah, that was a tough, I mean, that was really tough. But that was like we were both on the same page. We both knew, and it was just like, who's going to say it first? And
oh gosh, I was there with my daughter's dad, even though he was XYZ. I made the conscious decision to end the relationship because I knew. I was like, okay, we've been running our course. Right. I've just been holding on, thinking something's going to be different, and it was so hard. It was so hard.
Yeah, because it's not, it's not always necessarily animosity. For me, it was like, here's what I know I need.
Right.
And I had to communicate that, and like, because we just had never really had a, quite frankly, like a good conversation about like, what do we want from this relationship? It's been 5.5 years. And so when we finally did, and I was like, I need this. And he was like, I need this. And we were like, I don't think we can provide those for each other, and like, but it takes, like I said, like it takes a lot of courage, because I could have said, okay, I'll make that work. And okay, it's okay if you can't do XYZ. And that would have kept my bubble safe.
Right.
But it wouldn't have gotten me what I know I want, or what I know I need.
Kudos to both of you, just for having that grown up, because some of us, like, you say you're 30 and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking we were the same age.
Well, so I'm 31 now.
not trying to put age on you. You're just very mature to be, sometimes younger people. I was there and I'm still growing. I'm not like holy thou.
Right. Yeah.
But you said that courage was your highest this time. That surprised you.
Yeah.
What was your weakest? Or
so my weakest was clarity, which also surprised me. But then I'm like, I just think my definition of clarity, like I feel good in general about finishing up the book. There's definitely now like a little bit of this kind of in between space where I'm like, okay, what's next? Okay. But I know I'll figure it out. Like I'm not like stressing about it like I have in the past. So clarity was my lowest. And then, they were all, between 4 and 5. So they were all pretty even.
Right. Gosh, Chelsea.
I told you, I'm like, this is the best I've ever been. And I'm like really keenly aware that this is the best I've ever been. And like, I'm just going to lean into it. And I know it will change, because that's life. Like there will be a time in the future where I'm not on fire.
But we're gonna ride this wave. That's what we're gonna do.
Right. But for now, we're gonna ride the wave, and I'm pretty good.
I love it. You're glowing. Everything is glowing about you. If it's something that you could like tell the audience as far as these 6 habits, for somebody that's growing in personal development and just trying to learn more about them, what is something that you could say?
So, here's what I'll say is this has also been a big change for me, especially, kind of in regards to productivity, is learning to really identify what matters and like what is actually urgent versus important versus what are you just busying yourself with because you think you're supposed to. you know, a big load came off my shoulders. You know, this past like March, end of March, beginning of April, I was doing the most. I was like, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do that. I was like, ugh. And I didn't burn out, but I got to a place where I was like frustrated.
Right.
And I think, and I had to really take a look at like, does any of this matter?
Right.
Like what matter? What really needs to get done? And what if I just did those things and it like dramatically simplified things and then made me so much more productive? And I feel like now I'm in a place where like, it's just so nice to like look at a to-do list. And like, we always we're like, I'm just going to push, you know, we procrastinate and we push things off. But like, if you're in a place where you identify what really matters and you do that thing,
right.
Like, because even sometimes I'm like, okay, I really need to do this. And I don't want to do it. But if I do this one thing, I probably don't actually really have to do those other 7 things that I'm telling myself I need to do. So, I mean, I think when we talk about high performance and we talk about like living at a high level and because it comes down to clarity as well, is what really matters, like what really absolutely needs to get done. And because I think we get on our high horse where we're like, this thing is so important, I need to get it done. And I'm just like, I don't know, do you? Like, what would happen? What would happen if that didn't get done? And there are so many instances where it's like, oh, the world would still be spinning. Okay, so that means I can actually focus my effort on this thing that really, really, really actually mattered. And for me, that was my book. Like I was filling my time with stuff when what really needed to get done was my book.
I love it.
You know, and so again, so it's just urgent versus important. Like what really needs to get done. And it helps with productivity so much. And like, and like I said, I'm just repeating myself now. Like when you get honest about that, I think that's when the clarity can kind of start to come into play too. Like if you're struggling with clarity and you start from productivity and you're like, okay, like I'm doing the most, but like what really is mattering and making the most difference.
You're hitting it. I think I'm going to have to sit down with you one day. Like I'm so serious because I'm like, you're just hitting it. Like as far as me, I have my productivity level. It's so high.
I bet it is.
Chelsea. But it's like some stuff I'm like, I can't get rid. I don't know how to get rid of. Like, you know, some stuff.
Totally. Sometimes there's like, you can't get, it's a time suck, but you can't necessarily get rid of it. And so like, that's a bummer. So how do we deal with that? You know?
Yeah, that's what I'll say. Like my brother, he's always like, you got too much on you. You need to just let it go. But like my grandfather is one thing. Like, I have to take care of my grandfather. Like my brother, I don't know if that clicks to him sometimes. Like I'm like, you don't understand or you don't want to understand. If we don't take care of him, he's a baby. He's 87 years old, you know, and that's just a whole, that's probably what messes with my clarity. Not trying to blame everything on him.
No, for sure. Yeah.
But I have a lot of hats and I just need to figure out how I can delegate some of that off a little bit.
Yeah. You know, and I think as women, we tend to wear a lot of hats, right? Ugh. You know, no shade against the guys out there that are doing the work too, but, especially when it comes to caretaking, like, you know, we just do. But so sometimes like we need to be honest and be like, okay, yeah, this is the important thing. You know, and because what could be happening is like you have to devote energy here. And so like then you're guilt shaming yourself about not being able to put it other places.
That's true.
But if you just stepped into more acceptance of the fact that this is where your energy needs to be and allowed that to be okay, like the lack of guilt and shame around the other things would probably actually make things a little bit easier.
Right. I love it. I love everything. You guys hear Chelsea, right? She's on point. You guys definitely got to find her. Chelsea, tell us where you're at on social media and where we can find you at.
Of course. So my Instagram is at Chelsea K Mancini, CHELSEA, the letter K, and then my last name Mancini. That's definitely where I hang out the most. That's where everything goes. Like I also am on the TikTok and the Twitter, but like it all just gets aggregated to Instagram. So if you find me there, you'll find me the other places. And then I've got my weekly YouTube videos every Tuesday with a tarot reading for the collective, where you can just hear me spout these thoughts into a camera with nobody there to say anything else. So it's just me on my soapbox.
I love it. No, I love it because you're on point. I love everything about you. I have 2 riddles for you before you go.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I think you might get these. So the first one is, what is something that goes up and down but doesn't move?
Life.
No.
What is something that goes up and
stairs.
down? Stairs. I got too deep.
Yes. Okay. And the next one is, what is something you use that you have to break first?
Your soul. Oh my God. I'm like a glow stick.
You're close.
Bread.
No, you're close. You're in the kitchen.
An egg.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I heard those and I was like, I have got to ask Chelsea that.
Like my soul, the name of my book is Let It Break. So I'm like, break your soul open, let yourself collapse. Like,
that's awesome. Thank you so much today, Chelsea. I'm definitely gonna sign out. This is episode number 30 with Truth Be Told podcast and Chelsea Mancini, High Performance Habits. You guys have a good evening. Bye, Chelsea.
Bye. Thank you.